Hi ladies, so some of you were worried that once you got home, you would not remember all the steps to our foundation paper piecing pattern. So I'm just going to do this quick video to take you through the first few steps, and we'll let you watch this at home so it will help you remember. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, here's our cute little heart and our pattern. Start with your creased back edges. So using your add a quarter ruler and the tapered edge, fold back on all the lines of the pattern so that you have a nice straight line. You don't have to do this. You can do it as you go. I choose to do it in advance because I feel like it helps me. And when I'm working through the pattern, I need to fold back to trim my edges. That line is already creased and ready. So it just helps me if I do the whole pattern in advance. We're going to start with section 1 and 2. Only on section 1 do I use a little bit of glue. So folding back and finding section 1 here on the back, I just put a little bit of glue, and that just holds that fabric in place. So with wrong side of fabric to wrong side of paper, put that fabric and press it down so that it covers the entire section of section 1. Okay, so your fabric will be facing out, away from your paper. And then with right sides together, section number 2, right sides together there, okay? And then pin those two, because you're going to sew on the line between 1 and 2. So this time we are sewing 2 pieces together, section 1 and section 2, sewing on the line in between the 2. Okay, now I've sewn on the line between section 1 and 2, turn my paper over, fold the fabric back. I use my seam roller to press it nice and flat, and now we're going to trim. So keeping my fabric flat, fold it over with your print pattern side up, and we're going to trim around those sections 1 and 2. Okay, so all the lines around that, fold back and use your 1/4 inch guide to trim that off, and now you have a perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. And we're going to do around the entire section 1 and 2. This just gives you a great guide. So as you build onto this pattern, you already have a perfect 1/4 inch seam around to line up your next piece of fabric. So now we're going to work, now we've got those trimmed off, and we're going to work on section 3 here. So section 3. Okay, so folding back on the line, right here above section 3, we're folding back on that line. Now we have this perfect 1/4 inch right here because we've trimmed it off already. And then with right sides of fabric to right side of fabric, we're going to lay that on top of each other, making sure that piece of fabric will cover the entire section 3, pinning that down, and then sewing on the line right above section 3. Okay, now I've sewn on that line right above section 3. Turn your pattern over, press your fabric back, use your seam roller to press it nice and flat, making sure the fabric is flat, turn it back, and we're going to trim. So again, around section 3, fold back on those lines that border section 3, and then using your 1/4 inch ruler, trim that off, all the way around, and now it's trimmed. So now we can move on to section 4. Okay, section 4. So the line right above 4, if you fold that back, now your 1/4 inch allowance is right there because we've trimmed it very nicely. And then put those fabrics right sides together, pin it down, and we're going to sew on the line right above section 4. Okay, I've sewn on that line right above section 4. We're going to turn it over, fold it back, press that out so it's nice and flat. And keeping my fabric nice and flat, again, we are going to trim around section 4. So now this line right below section 4, folding it back, trimming that excess fabric off, giving you a nice 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then you just continue on. So now we finished all first 4 sections, and you're ready to move on to section 5 and just complete it the exact same way. All right, you're going to do great.